And here we go.
Nice.
I love, dude. Oh man. I know I talk trash about DVDs all the time, but dude, the DVD for that goes hard whenever you start it and it plays that clip.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. DVDs are the future.
Yeah. Yep. Totally, man.
I love me some DVDs. I don't care what anyone says. I love it.
I like it a lot.
I like it a lot.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. Yesterday I got the first 3 John Wick movies at a Goodwill on Blu-ray.
Good.
All 3 for like $11.
Dude,
That's
I've
awesome.
only seen the first one.
I've not seen any of them.
You really need to watch the rest of them.
Yeah.
Good.
I just feel like I'm gonna love them, and I was like, well, I can either buy these now or I can rent them sometime for more. So
Yeah.
The first one rules like
Oh yeah.
insanely hard. Like there's no reason I shouldn't have watched all the others. It has nothing to do with like the quality of the first. I thought I've seen it like 3 times. I love it. That's awesome.
I've heard they're all great.
Yeah, I think they're all fantastic. I think.
Has anybody posted in the group? Sorry, I was working on. I'll do it. I was working on doing it, and then I got.
Yeah. I shared it in the chats.
Awesome. I'll share it in the group.
It's still chats. Uh-oh.
Awesome. I'll share it in the group. Oh.
Awesome. I'll share it. Awesome.
Gabe is present.
What's up, Gabe?
He is present.
Greenery.
4 people. By the way, Gabe has videos on his channels that people should check out. He's got some pretty cool edits.
He does. Yeah.
What is it called? What's his channel called?
Greenery 01. It's right there.
Oh, right.
You just said it.
But
You'll have to excuse my friend. He's a little slow.
The town is back that way.
We get Gabe for about 10 minutes. All right. Drop all of your
Sweet.
Casablanca hot takes.
Yes, do it.
You know, drop them all in here. And then we'll tear you apart for the next 10 minutes.
Hello, Kanan.
It's a
Say
guest
hello.
appearance.
Say hi. Someone's shy. Say hello, everyone. What's your favorite movie? Mario?
All right.
You like Lion King?
He knows ball.
Yeah.
What's Lion King?
Thing.
He
So
gets
funny.
it. He gets
He
it.
does. He knows cinema.
He does know cinema.
I don't need it.
Sorry, he's just gonna be doing that for a minute. There we go. Yeah, Gabe, drop your thoughts on Casablanca.
Casablanca.
In the meantime, do we want to get started on what we've been watching?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Also, we got 6 people in here. Anyone else who's in the chat or watching?
Crap, we're down to 4.
Right as soon as I say something, I'll see how it is. But yeah, drop your recent watches.
I don't have a whole lot that I've been watching this week, but I can say that Severance. James, watch Severance. I'm going to keep bugging you about it.
Speaking of, I still haven't watched season 2.
Okay, now I have to bug you about it because we're 4 weeks in.
I know, and I haven't had anything spoiled, but everyone's like the 4th episode is unreal.
Dude, honestly, I think the first episode was really great, but 2, 3, and 4 have been like, oh gosh, it's so good.
That's awesome.
You're gonna love this show, James.
I know I will.
I have zero doubt.
I've said it like so many times. I'm just so bad with TV.
Yeah, and the good thing is it's only one season and a few episodes additionally. So, and the season that there is like 8 or 9 episodes, so it's not bad. I binged it in one night, twice actually. So it's crazy. The only other thing I've really watched, other than just like in passing, watching like The West Wing when I'm eating or something, is I watched Collateral.
Oh man, I need to watch that.
Ago. That was my first time. I continue to just fall further in love with Michael Mann movies. He just does stuff that like he just gets. I don't know. There's something about how he makes movies, especially like what's not cop movies. It's not a cop movie, but like I guess just action or just tense movies. He just does them so insanely well. And then he like pivots hard and does Last of the Mohicans. And it's one of my favorite movies ever. So I'm just loving Michael Mann as a director as I've been watching his filmography this year.
Well,
And
we got Gabe in the audience. He said Collateral rules. I've known that like
it does.
I've known about Collateral because of how much I know that Gabe loves it, and I really need to see it already.
Yeah, it's really, really great. Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise are both fantastic in it.
The way it's shot is just so unique too.
It is.
That was one of those films where like I like had heard like Tom Cruise was in it or whatever, but I think it was Chris Stuckman that got me to watch it.
Nice.
He did a review of it
Get
one time.
Stuckmanized.
Yes, sir. And I was like, all right, I'm in. This sounds rad, and it's rad.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan.
Tom Cruise has got the most 2001 or ish haircut ever.
It looks so good though.
He wears it well.
I mean, it looks like iconic to me.
And he's so good in it. He's ultimate bad guy Tom Cruise in it. He's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Collateral's great. And that's pretty much it other than Severance for me.
Nice. I see it.
What about you, Jimmy Jam?
I watched Superman Batman Public Enemies, the animated movie. I really like this one. It's kind of like, to me, the one of the most fun versions of just these DC animated movies, where it feels like you're thrown in the middle of a comic book story. You get a lot of fun characters. I love the art style. It's and it fully centers Kevin Conroy as Batman and Tim Daly as Superman. Like, it just centers the two of them together. Like, that is the movie, is just their dynamic. And because of that, it's so much fun. I watched Waiting Women from Bergman. I'm still kind of in the middle of a lot of his like relationship dramas, and they're really good. This one was really good, really interesting. Just different generations of women, kind of reciting formative parts in their lives with their significant other. And then I watched a Kurosawa film, an early 40s Kurosawa film called No Regrets for Our Youth. It's the first movie he made after World War II. You had, I forget what it's called, but you had basically the whatever board of something that the U.S. had put, where like basically they would look over Japanese films and try to encourage certain themes. So you can detect that in some films of this era. But Kurosawa actually said, he's like, I would take the U.S. censorship over the wartime Japanese censorship any day. So he didn't put it in those words, but he hated working under. He made a couple of propaganda films during World War II, and he hated that experience. And this is the first movie that he made where he felt like he had a lot more freedom. And it's wild. It's like 1946. like filming started less than a year after the war ended, and the movie is just skewering like Japanese imperialism, and it feels like an incredibly bold movie to make, because you still had like a large Japanese audience that was still very, very like rah about the military effort. So it's really great, and it stars Yasujiro Ozu's consistent leading actress, and like the one of the only 2 times she worked with Kurosawa, and she's incredible. She's like flipping phenomenal in this. So that was great. And then I watched Superman Batman Apocalypse. I did not like this one. It was kind of lame. So not a great sequel. I watched Dogman. It's pretty funny, pretty clever, pretty cute. I actually didn't mind it. I laughed a few times.
Nice.
And I watched The Brutalist, and I'm like head over heels in love with this movie. So favorite of the year so far. But well, I say so far. I guess the year's over. So it's just I'll catch up on my Oscar viewings. Try to watch like Conclave and Anora and anything I can try to watch before the ceremony in March. But
nice.
that's my viewing.
Nice. That's a very like interesting variety that you have there.
Listen,
oh my
Dogman
gosh.
is the favorite of
Is
2025.
that Casablanca on DVD?
I thought it was
Incredible.
perfect.
That's pretty great.
So do y'all think, really random question, and I don't want to stay on it too long, but do y'all think last year I was so invested in watching all the Oscar movies I could. Are y'all as invested this year? I'm not at all. Like I've missed several, and I don't. I know. I'm not
invested too.
Yeah. He's invested in my juice. I told him he could have some of the juice. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not super into the lineup this year, and I'm not as motivated to catch up on as many as I can this year. Even though I've seen a few of them, but I don't know. Are you guys feeling the same way?
I'm feeling kind of similar to you. I think like with last year, a lot of the nominees were the movies that I was already not like motivated to see. Like I saw the trailer for The Holdovers and I'm like, oh, I'm watching that.
Yeah.
Scorsese is doing like Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm like, well, I'm watching that. Nolan's doing Oppenheimer. I'm watching that. Barbie is this huge event. I'm like, well, I'm watching that. Like it's just, pre-Oscar nominations, these were already movies that I was like hyped to see. And there's fewer of those here. Like, and it also feels like a lot of them came out to less aplomb. Like I've heard Conclave is good, but it feels like it just dropped on Netflix and people were like, hey, have you watched the Pope movie? It was actually pretty good. And I'm like, oh I guess I'll try to check it out. I do really want to see Anora. I hear like really good things about that one. But yeah, it feels I'm gonna just to have an opinion. I'm gonna watch Emilia Perez.
Same.
But yeah, like there's some of these on here that I'm plan on watching because of the nomination. But it feels like with last year, I was like, gosh, I was already wanting to see all of these anyways.
Same. Yeah, I think, and Ryan just kind of said it too. He said all the lack of Dune 2 and Nosferatu hurts their prospects of taking them seriously. I agree. It just feels like they're shunning movies that they shouldn't be shunning. Not shunning.
Ryan also didn't mention Civil War, which was one of the best
Thank
films.
you. Yes, Civil War. Dude. Gosh, Civil War was so good.
Yeah. I've just gotten used to Eggers getting snubbed, though. Eggers isn't going to make something and get recognized for it. That's just a rule of Hollywood, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, that's stupid.
No, it is. I will say, though, like, so I've already like seen like quite a bit of the nominations, and they were movies that I was excited for, but like I still really want to see the substance. Like I've heard like nothing but great things.
I do want to see that.
And I also think like, hey, it's kind of wild that we have a body horror film in the Best Picture nominations. So I'm like, there's a level of respect that I have for that. And then A Complete Unknown, like that was one that I wanted to see.
I really want to see that still.
Yeah, I missed it in
That's one
theaters, unfortunately. I know, like James, like you're a little bit lower on it, but
probably means I'll love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably big.
You don't
if you're a
love
big
Mangold.
Ford v Ferrari guy, you're gonna be real.
It's great. I don't care what. I mean, really, you're the only person I've ever heard to trash it.
I don't trash it. I got it at like 3.5.
Dude, that's trash.
It's really competent mediocrity.
Ah! There's the trash.
But yeah, also Nickel Boys, I've heard is phenomenal, and it's had such a limited release, which is a shame because like I really, really want to watch it. And then I'm Still Here. Like I honestly like I'd say like most of these I want to watch. Like the hype level is not like, you know, they're not all Dune Part 2 for me. Like,
but even like last year, it was like as the year went on, I kept discovering like, oh my gosh, what's this Past Lives movie? I gotta watch that. There hasn't been a Past Lives for me yet this year. Maybe there won't ever be. That's fine. But
that's actually a really good point. I feel like the last like honestly like all of the
oh my god.
Oh man. Also I just wanted to say hey Ryan, I'm glad that you're still here for a little bit. I was gonna say all of the 2020s, we've had films like Minari, we've had films like After Sun, we've had films like Past Lives, just like these really strong like dramas, whether they're romance or not. And I feel like this year, like maybe there is, maybe one of those is that, I don't know, like I haven't watched Nickel Boys, so like it seems like it would be in that vein, but like yeah, there's just I feel like there weren't as many like just straight up dramas last year. So
yeah. But yeah, anyway, I was just wondering, I was trying to gauge where you guys were at with that, but there's definitely several I still want to watch.
I'm gonna fly out to watch it with Kiefer, and we're gonna wave our brutalist flags against the forces of darkness.
Dude, there's no darkness. I gave it a 4-star.
That. Oh.
Competent mediocrity.
Oh man.
No, I'm kidding. It's very good.
We're gonna get some haters in the chat for
oh my gosh
for saying that about the realist.
No,
it deserved. Drew, what have you been watching?
Yeah, I feel like this last week has also been a bit of a lighter week for me, but I do have a few shout outs. So I may have like briefly mentioned these in our chat last week, but I watched A Real Pain, which was fantastic.
I want to see that.
A very, very strong 4-star. Like it's almost like, I don't know how to describe it any other way than this. It's like a perfect 4-star movie. Like
I know what you're about.
That's just it. Like it's literally like I don't really have like any major flaws with it, or any at all. I think like maybe it just could have had a little bit more, but like I think it's fantastic. The performances are great. It's really funny, but also really, really heartfelt. Like I actually wasn't expecting it to be as much of a drama as it is. I was expecting it more to be a comedy because that's what the trailer kind of gives off. And I mean, it's still a comedy for sure, but like it leans pretty heavily into the drama, and I was totally into it. And then like reading up on on why am I blanking on his name? On Jesse Eisenberg's like inspiration for like creating this story. It's like a very, very personal story for him. So I have a lot of respect for it. So yeah, that's a great watch. I saw Companion in theaters, which is like already the the best like surprise of the year, like starting off strong. It's really impressive. It's a first time feature film for this director who wrote one of the Fred movies. So
Like the
that's
YouTuber?
random. Yeah, the YouTuber. It's random, but yeah, like go off, King.
Go figure, man.
But yeah, he just directs this really incredible thriller that's really creative, really funny at times, but also like takes itself really seriously and never like upends the it never really upends the suspense of it. So yeah, I'm a fan.
Nice.
Definitely go and see it on the big screen if you can. It's going to be leaving soon from what I read and going to straight to VOD, which kind of sucks, but it did pretty well at the box office. So yeah. And then right before we hopped on the stream, I watched Creed for the first time 10 years after it released. Don't know how that happened. And also like I grew up watching the Rocky films and I'm a huge fan. So I don't know how I haven't watched the Creed trilogy yet, but I'm kicking myself for it. I wish I could have seen it on the big screen because it's awesome. Like I think it's just the quintessential legacy film. It's not like, it's not like, oh, surprise cameo, like it's not throwing these references just to be like, all right, here's one for the fans. Like everything feels really natural in its approach to legacy. And I think like just like on its own, if you took Rocky out of the equation, it's still fantastic. Like I think it's like written really well. It's shot really well. It's directed well. The performances are great, especially for Michael B. Jordan. So I was a huge fan.
Sylvester Stallone is incredible in that. Like he
Oh, yeah.
earned his Best Supporting Actor nomination.
Yeah, he was fantastic in it. But yeah, I'm a fan. So I'm gonna have to watch the other two soon, and then I also just ordered the Rocky collection because I'm like, man, I gotta go on a Rocky marathon now.
Yeah. Should we tell everyone what we're doing next before we get into it?
What are we doing next? What do you mean?
Like next month?
Oh, next month.
And this month?
Yes. So
like the podcast.
Yeah. I wasn't sure.
I'm going
like,
to bed after this.
No, I wasn't sure if you meant like, all right, like you want to like. I wasn't sure if you were trying to pivot into like the Casablanca discussion already.
No. After this episode.
Yeah. Someone said just got here. Anyone watch The Brutalist?
Oh, have we? Oh,
we have.
Yes.
We are all varying degrees of it's good or it's the best thing ever. So.
Okay,
yeah.
I think
we have 15 people in here, by the way.
We do. Thank you for everyone who's tuning in right now. And chat in the chat. I think The Brutalist is very good and even great, but I have my issues with it. I don't want this conversation to just be a Brutalist debate. We'll get there eventually, but
yeah. But
I still think a lot of its hype is well deserved, but there's just some things that bother me and I can't shake it. maybe a rewatch will help. I don't know.
I'll sit you in a room with Kiefer.
Yeah, I would be more than willing to rewatch it with Kiefer for sure.
So yeah, but yeah.
Next. Well, first off, this month. So last week we were intending to actually kick this off, but just plans kind of shifted around, so we weren't able to make it. But for the rest of February, we're just going to be covering romance films. So we're starting with Casablanca. We're going to do La La Land, and then we also have When Harry Met Sally. So that's going to be really fun.
I'm so freaking pumped.
Like a really good, I feel like it's a really good, like, just we're taking like different like eras of film with that. So I'm really pumped for that. And like I haven't seen When Harry Met Sally before, and I've been wanting to. It's been on my watch list for a long time. So
neither of you have. I can't freaking wait.
It's gonna be fun. And then next month we were kind of throwing around this idea of doing sports movies. So like we haven't like fully locked in our plan for that yet, but we'll probably try and pick like, you know, one film per sport, I think is probably what we'll end up doing. But I'm
Cricket,
pretty
racquetball.
Are there any rugby films?
There's an episode of Friends.
Well, you know what we could do? We should do a dodgeball episode. What a banger right there. That's what the film is called, right?
We're actually doing dodgeball, Talladega Nights, and Mighty Ducks. Mighty Ducks is cinema compared
I think
to oh my gosh, she's the man. Stone, I love you.
Nice.
Oh,
and then
thank you so much. Sorry,
I'm assuming that's how you pronounce your name. I'm sorry if I got it wrong. One of my favorites is When Harry Met Sally.
Mine too, man.
Yeah,
it is my favorite rom-com of all time.
Nice.
I'm pumped to cover it.
My favorite rom-com is Punch Drunk Love.
Mine is Casablanca.
Oh yeah. I mean, honestly, the comedy is pretty great in it. Let's be
real.
real.
It really is.
But yeah, speaking of Casablanca, let's jump into the discussion. I feel like this one's a long time coming because like I know like from the beginning of when we started this podcast, so I'm pretty sure it was like one of the films that we threw out there of like, oh, we gotta do this someday, and here we are like a year and a half later, and we're finally doing it. So I'm pretty pumped for this. And also like this is kind of like a fun transition going from Vertigo, which was our last movie review, and then going to another like golden era of Hollywood. I mean, like this took place before, technically this came out before Vertigo, but like, you know, still the same era of film for sure. So yeah, but Michael, let's start with you with some just like quick thoughts. Like just right out the gate.
Quick thoughts. So I've been meaning to watch this for a long time, but my wife had seen it a while ago, and she's been wanting to watch it with me. So I've been waiting till the right time where we could both watch it. And we decided to have our Valentine's Day date last weekend instead of next weekend. And so we decided we'll go out to dinner and then we'll come home and we'll watch Casablanca finally. And so I've been really excited to finally get to this one and to see what all the hubbub was about. And I gotta say, it wasn't what I expected, because it was so much more than just a romance movie. And it flew by. The time of this movie, it flies by.
One might even say the time as time goes by, you know, it's like it just.
One might say that.
One might try to force that quote.
One might try to force a lot of quotes tonight. One, James. No, seriously though, that I was surprised because, you know, when you watch a lot of older movies, I mean, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I actually really find it refreshing, but a lot of older movies do move at a slower pace a good bit of the time. And I really like that. But this one, to me, like, it was like 3/4 of the way through, and I did the whole thing where you press a button and you see how much time is left. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's only that much time left. This is flying by. It seemed like we've been watching for 20 minutes. And so, and really, I mean, it's not an action-packed movie. It's just incredibly smooth dialogue from beginning to end, and fun, interesting characters all the way through. And I was surprised by how quickly I was invested. It was like 5 minutes in, I was like, wow, I already care about that character and that character and that character. And man, this was my first Humphrey Bogart movie.
Oh, whoa.
Ever. Yeah. So interesting little tidbit.
You've got a lot of bangers ahead of you, dude.
He's unreal all the time.
I mean, he was great in this. I really, really loved him in this. I loved his voice. It's kind of that classic Hollywood voice, but I loved it. And
you can like smell the cigarette smoke just exuding from him.
Seriously. But yeah, we'll talk more about the movie, but I mean, A+. I love this movie, and I can't wait to talk more about it.
Heck yeah, dude. Jimmy Jam, what about you?
So, Casablanca is my mom's favorite movie of all time, and I've probably said it a few times, but like I have a big like movie family. Like we watched like Rear Window, we watched all the time growing up, and this was a movie that we watched a lot. Like my mom's every birthday for my mom, we would rewatch Casablanca, and so I saw it a lot. And even though I really liked older movies growing up, for some reason, Casablanca was actually one that I was like, I'll watch it for mom, I guess. Like, whatever. Here we go. And then it was probably like early to mid-teens that it was the same deal. Mom's birthday is coming up. It's here. We're watching Casablanca. And it's like my dumb brain finally had a light bulb where I was like, oh my gosh, I get it. It was a transformative viewing. I'm like, that was incredible. And one year we did the thing where we rented out a theater to watch it. We got a custom poster for my mom that's got like, it had her and my dad's name under Ingrid Bergman and Humphrey Bogart's name.
Nice.
So they got that up in their living room now. So we went all out for that. But ever since that viewing that like transformed it, it went from like something I'd watch once a year out of obligation to like, I love this movie so much now. So now I rewatch it just on my own, and like whenever it's time to watch it to get like the yearly viewing, I'm like, all right, let's go. Like this is, so I think this movie is like it. Every bit of its reputation, I think, is earned. I think this is like one of the all-time great movies ever. Like, if you scroll too far on a list of all-time greats before you get to Casablanca, like there's something wrong with the list. Like this is just I was thinking about it the other day when we were talking about like modern movies and elements that don't work, and like quips came up, and I was like, you know what's funny? I feel like Casablanca is a very quippy movie. This is a very, very quippy movie. People got like quick quips, like on just they're pulling out of their holster left and right. Every response gets like a funny little back at you kind of thing. But they're so good in this movie. So maybe that's I don't hate quips. I just need them to be good. And this has like just I'll just end it with this. Like this is one of my favorites, and it's like it's such a kind of random moment. It's never in any of like the included quotes. But when Captain Renault asked, "What in heaven's name brought you to Casablanca?" and Rick's like, "My health. I came to Casablanca for the waters." It's like, the waters? What waters? We're in the desert. I was misinformed. Like, it's just the dialogue is so freaking phenomenal and funny and like serious when it needs to be, and just like achingly longing when it needs to be. It's just, the script is perfect.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Jules said Madeleine LeBeau was the last survivor of the actors. She was 92. She just died a few years ago.
Oh wow,
crazy.
I'm looking up who she played.
Yeah, I was wondering too. He says a lot of double entendres too.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Oh, she's Yvonne. Okay.
Jules.
Oh, she's the person who really makes me cry. Whenever they start singing the French, what's the name of the song? The Lemurs.
Marseille.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Whenever
Oh my gosh,
whenever you see her just crying, singing it, that scene gets me every time. Like,
dude, when that was happening, I was like, I'm not even French, and I'm.
That's exactly the comment I said. I said, I'm not even French, but I'm crying.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I feeling so patriotic right now?
They'll do that to you.
Yeah.
French revolutions are crazy.
Drew's quote of the night: French revolutions are crazy.
Dude, they are. Oh man. You know, no, never mind. I was gonna make a joke, but it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, I think I've seen this film like 4 or 5 times now. My first time was back in like 2019 or 2020, I think. So either like right before or right around when COVID started. But that was like kind of the time of like I was delving into like a lot of like the classics, a lot of the greats, a lot of the films that like I'd heard about but never really had seen before. And I fell in love with it right away. And I mean, it just gets better with each think. But yeah, I echo everything that you guys said. Like, I think that the dialogue is just so incredible. Each like actor like just reads their lines perfectly. Like, there's just like this certain kind of like energy to it, and like there's a sense of humor to it, quips, but they never feel out of place because it's a very serious film at the same time. There's a lot of weight behind everything. Like, the Nazis are trying to take over Casablanca, and so there, there's a lot of weight to that. But like, I even remember there's a scene that it really stuck out to me with the dialogue and the quips. Whenever the Nazis first arrive and they're getting off the plane, and there's just this like banter between them and the French, the French character, and then also the Italian, and they're all like speaking, like, I mean, like the Italian speaking in Italian and the French guys speaking in French, and they're like arguing, and just the back and forth between them, like, I don't know, it kind of like gave me like a sense of believability in a way, because they didn't like make, I like, obviously the Nazis are the villains, like 100%, but like I think like by having them kind of like just joke around, or like not make them like mustache twirling kind of villains in this, it just, I don't know, it just kind of added like some sort of like realism to it.
I was about to say, even with all of like the melodrama of like love triangles and stuff, there's like a historical reality that I think the movie sells really well. So just like this is Casablanca. I love the beginning, and waiting and waiting and waiting. Like, this is what this moment in time was for these people in this neutral territory.
Yeah. And I love that narration at the start.
Yeah.
Getting the whole Indiana Jones vibes, like showing the map, traveling between each location. So good. And like even later on in the film, there's they use like what I'm assuming is like footage from wartime, and like kind of splice it in, and it works really well on like selling the Nazis invading France. So I don't know, like that. I'm a huge sucker for period pieces. I'm also a huge sucker for anything that takes place during World War II. So I'm a bit of a history buff when it comes to that. So like, I don't know. It's just this movie's my cup of tea. It's not like full blown like globe-trotting adventure, but it has the globe-trotting vibes that you'd get from like something like Indiana Jones. And then you've got this great cast. You've got incredible music. You've got like just every single frame in this film is like a freaking painting. It's so good.
I'm scrolling through like the quotes on IMDb, like some quotes from the movie, and like, you know how a lot of times when you're scrolling through quotes for a movie and you're like, that one's not good to read out of context. That one's not good to read out of context. That one's not. This one is like, they're all amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like every single one of them is so freaking good. Like let's see. Obviously there's the here's looking at you, kid, all that stuff. But like, where were you last night? That's so long ago, I don't remember. Will I see you tonight? I never make plans that far ahead.
I love that one.
That's so good.
Rick, I honestly think, I think I've mentioned this in the chat before, there are days where I think Rick is my favorite movie protagonist. He's got that perfect blend of like, there's some real cynicism to him, but he can't like fully stamp out like his real heart.
Yeah.
And it makes, and like Humphrey Bogart is just so cool. I just think he's such a cool guy. Like, dude, I'll risk lung cancer to smoke a cigarette to look like him, dude. He looks so cool. And he's got, but I bring him out to say, like, he's got so many of those like just immediate replies. It's like, that's the coolest thing ever. Whenever it's I forget his name, but it's played by Peter Lorre. Is Ugart? I don't know if they say his name. I think he's Ugart in the cast, but he's like actually, let me. Where was it? He says, "You despise me, don't you?" And I was like, "Well, if I gave you any thought, I probably would." like it's just like one. The immediate back and forth is so good. Or whenever Reynolds like the German is like, "What is your nationality?" And Rick's like, "I'm a drunkard." And Captain Reynolds like, "That makes Rick a citizen of the world." Like, they're so good. It's so freaking good.
Or like the line where Rick is like, "And remember, this gun is pointed right at your heart." And Captain Reynolds like, "That is my least vulnerable spot."
Yeah.
What?
And Jules just quoted what I think is probably the funniest moment in the whole movie. Whenever Renault is forced to like shut down the joint under like the kind of false pretenses, and he comes in and he's like, "I'm shocked to find gambling happening in this establishment. You're winning, sir." Oh, thank you. Sir. It's so good.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the humor is sneaky good in this movie. Like it's very, very funny and it holds up very well.
Yeah.
I feel like, even again, not to crap on anything old, because I love older movies. I'm developing even more of an appreciation for them now, but sometimes some of the jokes are pretty silly and campy back then. And not in this at all. They're very, very whip smart. Just really well written. Timing is perfect from the actors. and it's edited and shot perfectly together. It's like this perfect soup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, like it has like so much style to it. Like it's just got such a cool factor to everything. But at the same time, like I said before, like with the humor, like I think that just all the dialogue, like it works for me. It never feels like you're in a separate world. It feels like it still feels like reality to me. Like I buy these characters, I buy these people that, and like it they all have like these quips, and they like I said, there's just like this style to the dialogue, but like all of the characters feel like individual people too. It never feels like it's just repetitive, like, oh yeah, they all like talk the exact same way, you know what I mean?
Well, you know, Rick's his gin joint. Oh, that's not a funny quote, but I love there's the famous of all the gin joints in all the town and all the world, she walks into mine. But his bar feel like that's basically like that's our primary location. We spend 80% of our movie in one bar.
And it's an awesome looking bar.
It's an odd dude.
Awesome
If nobody has, somebody needs to open up a bar and like that recreates Rick's.
I looked it up. They in Casablanca you can get.
Oh
Rick's
my gosh,
Cafe.
I would go.
Yeah.
I would go so fast.
Yeah.
But like because dude, let's do it live recording at Rick's Cafe.
Yeah.
But because it's just the one location, it's every person there has to feel unique, and like everybody adds texture. You've got Sam, who like Sam's the goat. I love Sam.
Oh my gosh.
He adds texture. Man.
I heard a little bit of echo there.
But yeah, Sam is incredible. And I love the bartender who's like just always kind of in on the gossip. And I love that. Man, one of my favorite moments is whenever Sam lets that couple win at craps so that she doesn't have to like make a visit to Captain Renault, who is like, he's like so funny and likable, and then you're like, wait a second, he's also so unbelievably scummy. But it's such a weird dynamic that character has with other people in the movie. But the scene when like Rick lets that couple win, and the bartender's just like, "You've done a beautiful thing, Rick, beautiful." Like, I can't not feel like real joy in that moment when Rick is just like, he's just letting his money go. You know, he's just losing. There's no financial profit being made here. It's all loss. But it's those moments where like his humanity is outweighing his cynicism. But I feel like you get that because, or a lot of these moments work because like, I think the bartender is really memorable. I think that couple is really memorable. Captain Renault is obviously really memorable. Like he's just, this bar is populated by just really like recognizable faces and recognizable personalities.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Like when I said, I feel like 5 minutes in, I was invested in that character and that character and they're all in this bar. And I feel like when that first time when Ilsa walks into the bar and Sam sees her and they make eye contact, it's like, I'm immediately like, oh my, there's history here. What is happening? And then, there's clearly history with Rick as well. And then with that song, I love the role that song plays in this movie. What's it called? I can't remember the title.
As Time Goes By.
Incredible.
Which became like the WB logo theme that we've heard for all of our lives.
It's so crazy too. I was watching, I think at least Drew watched this too, I think, but we might have watched the same thing. But apparently Max Steiner did not like the song. And it was too late for him to, it was too late for them to do anything about it. It was too late for them to go back and do something else with it. And so Max Steiner decided to just make it part of the theme instead and like lean into it, and it freaking kills. It is just so, the end where it crescendos to that melody, it's just, I just got chills thinking about it. It's so good. Also, Max, how can you not like that song? What's wrong with you? You have a heart.
It's so
But,
beautiful.
Dude,
it's so beautiful. But I just loved that. Like, what a pro. Okay, well, let's just make it the theme then.
I also think it's like, it's really incredible that like that same like short documentary that we watched, they mentioned that like Dooley Wilson wasn't even a singer. Like he was never like trained professionally. He wasn't like a trained musician or anything. And they just they went along with it because they were like, he has like such a unique voice, like and then like also like using that song in particular because they were like kind of locked in, like I don't know, it's just it's crazy that like,
What a good decision though.
yeah,
I mean,
it just goes to show like, you know, there's these like moment to moment like quick decisions that like filmmakers have to make, and how many times can we think of where they were like, well, this wasn't like originally what we had planned, and then next thing you know, it ends up being like the most iconic thing ever.
yeah.
What would we have with Star Wars if everything went perfect? What would we have with Jaws if everything went perfect? What would we I mean,
The ability to spin a thing,
yeah, man.
just spin a thing into being like not just like we'll make it like passable and hopefully that nobody notices, but like now this is like one of the greatest things ever.
Jules said Ingrid Bergman didn't like Casablanca, which is crazy.
I wonder
and
if it's because of the experience of filming it, because they were writing on the fly, basically. Like, I wonder if it's that, like, if that's clouded it for her.
that probably could be why. And then Mitch joined in the chat and he said Bergman not liking it is going to be Jim's 13th reason.
Ingrid Bergman, not Ingmar Bergman.
Although I will say Ingrid Bergman has collaborated with Ingmar Bergman.
Yeah,
so
I really want to see that too, because I've heard it's amazing.
Autumn Sonata, right?
Yeah. But
man,
also, so just another little tidbit on the subject of as time goes by. This is one of like the super famous, everybody quotes it wrong moment where everybody says play it again, Sam. Like when you're looking up most famous quotes, it's always play it again, Sam. But nobody ever says that. She says play it, Sam, play as time goes by. But nobody says it in that way. But
that's like the Luke, I'm your father. Everyone quotes it, Luke, I'm your father. That's not the line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you idiots. That's not the line.
Do we want to just like pick a certain character and talk? Go character by character? Or
I'm down to go character by character.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
I like it a lot.
I mean, we already talked a little bit about I feel like we should start with good old Bogart himself. Even though we like kind of talked about him a little bit, but like there's so much that I can say about his character that I love.
Yeah. I feel like he's one of the most compelling protagonists because there is the mixture of his heart and his cynicism brings a level of like not unpredictability, but like there is a sense of you do kind of feel along for the ride with him, where his bitterness takes up a big chunk of the movie. Like whenever Laszlo is saying like, why won't you sell the papers. Like, why? And he just says, ask your wife. Like, he's always seems so calm, cool, and collected, like throughout anything that isn't related to them. Even like Captain Renault is taken back whenever he's like, Rick never drinks with customers, and he's like, bring a bottle, blah blah blah, and he's like, oh, looks like this is a night for first. Like he is so shocked at how different Rick is around Ilsa. Also, Ilsa in The Last Crusade was named after Ilsa Lund in this. But
I wonder if every Ilsa was named after.
Yeah. But like, to see somebody like Rick, who's always been so cool and collected and in charge, just like having like a bender that's like just making Sam so distraught of like, he's never seen Rick drink like this. He's never seen him lose control like this. He's never seen him like wallow in self-pity like this. And so I just think that blend of like just how hurt he feels, how bitter he is, and how much his actions are like influenced by this bitterness, but this constant kind of goodness that pops up here and there, and obviously culminates in this insanely amazing third act. Like, I don't know, there really is like a sense of like, you don't know what part of him is going to win out, and you're always rooting for him. And I think it makes him like one of the perfect movie protagonists like of all time.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think like, I don't know, I'm always like a huge sucker for characters who like aren't perfect. Like they have like their issues, and I think Rick is like just the perfect example of that. Jules said Rick felt betrayed. It was painful, which really humanizes him. And I think like just the way that they portray that is so perfect. And like when you learn why he's so cynical about everything, like it feels really earned for me. Like, yeah. and I'm like, dude, I am right there with you. I would be in the same boat as you. Like, just like, I man, like, especially the way that it's shot too. Just him.
I love the whole Paris flashback.
Yeah. Whenever he good. Like takes a swig of like, or not a swig, but like takes a hit of his cigarette, and then like it just fades into the flashback. Like, dude,
so classic.
Man, it's so good. What a transition. What a shot too. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I just even like, it's also interesting because like when we see his character in the flashbacks, you still like see Rick. Like you can tell that he's the same guy. It's just he's like a broken man now.
Mm-hmm. But it does
okay.
Oh, sorry.
No,
there you go.
No, you go.
Okay. I was just gonna try to say real quickly. It is Rick. It's not like they're like we're asking him to play a different character in flashback and the rest of the movie, but it's also different enough that like even on however many rewatches I'm on, there's still something bordering on shocking with the flashbacks, because just, I mean, our introduction of him is like, he's not cruel or anything. Like I said, you see his goodness pop up. But like, it feels like Peter Lorre's character and him were like, they have the whole joke of, you despise me, if I gave you any thought I probably would, kind of thing. But like, it just feels like that's their kind of banter. Like, this was a guy that he was seemingly like friendly with and a consistent patron and saw often, and like he dies and Rick's like, oh, like he's not particularly shocked by it. He just feels, it's not a shell of a man, but you don't really feel, he's not super emotive. He doesn't seem the sentimental type, even though Renault accuses him of being a rank sentimentalist. But like with this being Rick for us. Every time I rewatch it, when we jump back to Paris and Rick is just so alive, full of life and happiness and like excitement, like he's excited about the future and excited about things, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is.
He's like, let's get married, and
yeah, like could you ever imagine Rick pre that flashbacks, like excitedly asking that question? You know, it's just but it's so believably done, I think.
Curry just joined the chat and he said, when's the MCU stream? Man.
Next week, buddy. You and me.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, I love this character so much. I feel like he's hard to pin down, and honestly, like there are times where it's like, oh my gosh, is this movie gonna do, like at the end I have always heard about the ending. I knew it was, I don't know if the ending's controversial, but I know people always talk about the ending, and I was like, is the ending gonna be controversial because he ends up with her, and he definitely shouldn't. Like I'm not rooting for him to end up with her because of what would have to happen at that point. And so I was like, what are they going to do here? I cannot believe he's doing this. And then all the things he ends up doing at the end, he fully picks a side. He fully kind of breaks out of what he's been in, and it feels like he's a healthy person again almost. And but the movie is such a journey for him, because at the beginning of the movie you could never see him doing something like that. And gosh, I think my favorite, and it's like this, it's the saddest scene of the movie probably, but like my favorite scene of his is when he's just drinking the night that he sees her for the first time, and is like, of all the places, you know, of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine. And number one, what a line. It's a great line. But
got that framed, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure lots of people do. It's such a great line. But also, like, just on top of that, it's shot. I love the way it looks. It's the shadows and stuff. It's it's so beautiful. But
lighting is amazing.
Yeah, this movie looks so beautiful. But the man, he is acting his butt off in that scene, and I feel every ounce of pain and like betrayal and hurt that he is showing us. I feel it all so much in that scene. And so, like, yeah, I don't know. He's a very intriguing character, and I think he's an empathetic character. I think you understand, like, I love that because of where he's at, he's almost neutral on so many political things, and he's almost like, I don't want to commit to this or that. I'm just trying to be a businessman, just trying to make some money and whatever. And like y'all said, though, even when he's that person, every now and then something trickles in that's like, this guy's still good. This guy's got a heart of gold. It's just rusted over. Like, he's such a deep character.
Yeah. Real quick, Jules said even Laszlo thought Rick was cool.
Yeah.
I love that interaction that they have, where like Laszlo's like, yeah, you're a cool guy.
I guess if do we want to pivot to Laszlo?
Sure.
Laszlo's so cool though.
Yeah.
He's like the actual also like best ever. And I'm so glad, like, how many fingers do we need to count the amount of like actually great, well done love triangles?
Seriously,
usually it's not a good idea. A lot of the time it just feels contrived, and
you have to make the third guy a douchebag.
Yeah, and I love that, like, you know, we like even with all his problems, Rick is our protagonist, you know, like he's our guy.
Right.
And Laszlo's on the scene, and you're like, oh dang, Laszlo rules, dude. What
Yeah.
a hero. This guy's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love that they do that, and that it's Laszlo who picks up the singing of the Marseille, and it's like this is the hero. Like it's also like I think the movie, it's almost a unique choice to even have Rick be our protagonist, because I feel like another movie, like Laszlo, just on paper, Laszlo reads as your protagonist, you know? And so to have Laszlo be like this all around great guy, sacrificing himself, just like doing all in his power, putting himself at risk, doing all of this, but he's like the secondary character who walks into the plot of our primary character, who is like this neutral, cynical guy who is actually the movie's obstacle at a point. Like every time I rewatch, I forget that like whenever Ilsa shows up with the gun, like Rick goes dark there. I'm like, dude, Rick, I hate you in this moment. You are awful. You're like our movie protagonist, and you are awful right now. So it's that, just as an aside, it's really interesting that Rick is our lens into this movie and not like just the conventionally awesome, heroic Laszlo. But yeah, I love the decision to like let Laszlo be awesome. And as an audience, it makes sense for us to be like, you know what, it's good that she went with Laszlo, actually.
I am so glad that she went with Laszlo. It's one of those things. I thought we were going to get to the end, and I was going to have a question. I feel like that's a debate. Maybe it's just because of there's a kind of running thing, and when Harry met Sally, and maybe that has made it like a bigger thing than it actually is in my head. But I always thought that I would be like wondering, where do I stand on the ending of this movie? And like by the end, I was like, oh. There's one option here. She has to end up with Laszlo, or this sucks. like I don't want, this would be a tragedy otherwise.
Right.
Like, so because that would mean our protagonist, our so-called hero, will have to go into some pretty dark stuff. So I'm so glad it ended the way it did. And even I'm gonna have to find it unless one of y'all just has it memorized, but the line that he says to her,
if you don't get on that plane, you're going to regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday and for the rest of your life.
I think I love that, because I think any other movie would have just said, if you don't like, what's the first part of it? If you don't get on that plane, you'll regret it.
Yeah.
I love adding, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but for the rest of your life, you will. Yeah. And I think just adding the rest of that just puts in so much perspective of the depth of the choice to no, right now you're feeling things, but when you really step back from this is going to be, you're going to be glad. And I just think the way that that's written is so smart. It's so smart. And it makes me feel, as he kept talking, I was like, yes. It just makes me feel so much better about it all.
Yeah, no, I agree. Also, the line there at the end of that, where he's like, "We'll always have Paris."
Oh, that just breaks my heart every time.
Oh. Yeah.
It's just,
oh my gosh.
Because like the thing, I love that like the movie knows this is a hard thing for these characters. There's a reason it's a hard thing for her to say goodbye to Rick, and it's hard for him to make this decision. Like, I mean, we know it's a hard thing. We'll always have it, North Carolina, Jimmy. See you this year, hopefully. But like the movie knows that this is hard for them, and it's because like it's aware that what they had, like what they went through in Paris, like that was real. You know, it wasn't a silly fling.
Mhm.
Like this, there was something real and sincere, and in another life could have lasted. Like I do believe that had Laszlo been dead, I do think that they could have made a go of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And again, I think the fact that they could make it work, if things were different, makes his decision to not like all the more powerful, because it's not like it's just denying just kind of a desire of like, well, she's pretty and we get along pretty well. It's like, no, there was something here, and that's what makes it hard. That's what makes it a sacrifice.
Said beautifully.
And then also just with that ending, the amount of like incredible lines we have just in like at the airport, where
Right.
we've got the final line of "We'll always have Paris." We have the "If you don't get on that plane, you'll regret it." We have the final line of "Louis, this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship," which is just the camera craning back and them walking off into the smog and the lights and the fog. Oh my gosh, that is one of the all-time great like final shots to me.
Yeah.
But even before then, like whenever the German, I think it's Strausser, gets there and he's like asking like what happened, or no, he's shot, and then everybody else shows up, and Renault, like, he thinks Rick is cool. Like they actually do get along. And so he covers for him, and he has that line, "Round up the usual suspects." We got a famous movie named after that line. Like that line just
Yeah.
became huge. That whole sequence at the airport is jam packed with like, oh, and that's where I think you mentioned this quote earlier, Michael. But that's where the don't forget, this gun is pointed right at your heart. That is my least vulnerable spot. Like this sequence is just non-stop bangers.
Yeah.
Man. Also, whenever Rick shoots the Nazi, like, dude, that's just so freaking cool. Just like especially like the way that he's holding the pistol, like he's not even like, you know, like aiming it. He's just like kind of like holding it by his hip, and then he just,
Yeah.
It feels like a classic like standoff.
Yeah. And it's like, it also reveals a lot about Rick, because there's not a like, oh man, I just killed a guy. Like he did it like it was like a Tuesday, and you're like,
Yes.
man, Rick's seen some stuff, you know. This took no toll on this guy. He shot him, and he's like jumping back ahead in his mind of like planning like, okay, this is how I convince Ilsa, this is how I get, like, he's like he doesn't skip a beat.
Yeah. Kiefer, is he saying that I remind him of Bob from Bob's Burgers? What are you talking about, you
I don't
bagel?
know, you always reminded me more of Tina.
Uh-oh, double trouble.
Man.
Well,
All right, now back to Casablanca. Oh man.
We have to talk about Ilsa.
no.
I just think, well, first of all, I don't know that I've ever seen anything else with Ingrid Bergman either. This is all new.
Watch Gaslight. You would love Gaslight so much. That's where we get the term too. I'm not gaslighting you when I say that.
Are you sure about that?
No, I promise. You would actually love Gaslight.
I mean, I don't have a ton to say other than she's incredible. I loved her in this movie so much. I just think there's immediately a presence about her. My favorite shot of her is it's like a long, it kind of reminded me of It's a Wonderful Life, like the first shot we see where oh God,
Mary?
yeah, it's Mary, but it's where we see him look at Mary for the first time at the dance. and the camera just sits there
Oh yeah.
looking at her, and it reminded me of that. It just sits there, and she looks like an angel. I don't know of any other way to say it, but aside from it being filmed beautifully, I just think she's also beautiful, but the way she portrayed this character is just like there's a lot of depth here too, and
Yeah.
there's not always a lot of depth in women characters in the olden days. And
All right, now wait a second.
I'm just saying not always. There's definitely exceptions, obviously, but this one I really felt like she was a like real deep character, and while we empathize with our hero, we understand fully whenever we hear the reasoning of what happened. Well, yeah, of course you have to go back and find your husband. Like,
Yeah.
of course. It's all very reasonable and understandable. In fact, her not coming to find him actually was to make sure that he lived, for his protection. And so it wasn't a selfish, like, I don't want to confront you thing. Even though it's hard for him to not think that.
Right.
I just loved the complexity there. These are real human issues. Like, these are real human emotions, and they're portraying them so well, and their chemistry together is undeniable. It is just so good. And so even in the scenes like near the end where I'm like, I'm not rooting for this, but dang it, why are they so good together? So I just have to shout her out. She was absolutely fantastic in this movie, and just gave so much depth to a character who was written with a lot of depth. She added so much just in like the scenes in the restaurant when that song would start, when that song would start again. Like, there's something about specifically in the Paris flashback when she knows that, when she at this point knows that her husband's alive, but she hasn't told Rick yet. The look in her eyes and the emotion there, it's incredible. She was so good, and I really, really love it.
Yeah. The comment you made about like just the movies, especially that initial like introduction shot. Kiefer said Michael's spitting right now, which is true. That intro shot, I kind of love old Hollywood's like presentation of beauty a lot, where like there's the soft, like diffuse glowy lighting on close-ups and stuff.
Yes.
I just think that's cool, because what the shot It's a Wonderful Life shot is really good. The shot that I always kind of pictured with that is whenever Jimmy Stewart wakes up in Rear Window and we get the close-up of Grace Kelly. But like, yeah, like, she's beautiful, and you totally understand, like, you buy their love, like the way they fall in love, everything we see in Paris, all of that works. And I know I've read before that people have complaints about, like, she tends to be sometimes people's complaint about the movie, that she's too passive, and like the men in her lives are the ones making the decisions and stuff. But I've always like I've always had like a lot of like sympathy for the people who are maybe the most normal of like the story, but just through circumstances are swept up into something like just situations that are so impossible to imagine, where like she is with Laszlo and this awful thing is happening. He's taken to a concentration camp, and we're like mid occupation, like everything is awful. It makes sense that she would find companionship in a guy like Rick, and you buy everything that happens between the two. And then she finds out my husband is alive and he's escaped and he needs me. And of course she does what she does. And she's actually like, she's the person who does make the choice to go to Rick's because she is taking, she's making a gamble on, I know Rick, and whenever like, I also kind of forget that there's a scene where like Ilsa just straight up pulls a gun on Rick, like it gets intense and she needs it. And like, I cannot fully like, in some ways I can't fault her for not being able to follow through and then for ultimately falling back in love with Rick, where you're like, golly, the roller coaster she's been on is crazy, but at the same time, I also can't say it's not a flaw at all that Rick does have to be the one who does, like, once he regains his own moral footing, be the one to say, like, actually, no, this cannot happen, and give her that great line. But I also think that's fine because characters who don't make the right decisions all the time are usually the most interesting anyways. So like with everything she's caught up in, everything she's forced into, everything she's trying, and then when she's failing and her reactions to everything, it's just, I think she's a super complex character and a super compelling one. And I think Ingrid Bergman's performance is incredible. And I love the friendship that she has with Sam, and that she's more willing to confront the past than Rick is, just by asking him to play it. And I don't know. I think she's incredible.
Yeah, I think she's great. And like, I still think there's like a lot of like agency in her character. Like she's still like actively making choices. Like, yes, like, the choices that she's making are based on the men in her life, but like I think it just goes to show like her loyalty to her husband, which I think is like really admirable about her character. But I mean, like she, like the I don't know, I still see like so much agency in her character. She still makes choices.
And also I think sometimes a criticism I have of like modern film criticism is the idea that a character without agency is inherently bad. Sometimes a character who is robbed of agency is interesting. Like you can write compelling characters who are robbed of choices, or compellingly flawed characters who are so indecisive that they are just taken for a ride by the movie's plot. Like that's also a writing choice.
Now James is spitting.
You don't have to like, I don't know. That does kind of like, whenever people lay that out, like it's, well, this character didn't really have agency, therefore bad. I'm like, boy, you could tell a really compelling story about characters whose like fundamental flaw is their lack of agency, and it can be really interesting. So it's just it's checkbox movie criticism sometimes.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like I mean, on some level, like every character will have like a level of agency, right? Like we all have a level of agency, but I think it is interesting when like not every character is just like, I'm gonna like conquer the world and I'm gonna make all these decisions on my own. It's like, that like that's not how life works sometimes. And I think that when you have like a variety of characters, they're not all like the same, like free thinking and making all these decisions on their own. Like it makes the dynamic so much more interesting. Like you have Rick, who doesn't even want to make choices anymore. He's just like given up like all hope in everything. He's grown cynical.
Yeah.
And then you've got Laszlo, who is like the ideal like protagonist, the ideal hero, you know, like being the leader of this revolution. And then you've got Ilsa, who like, you know, makes the choice to go back and find her husband and be with her husband. So like I feel like you've got like just these three like ends of the spectrum, like, you know, like Elsa's like somewhere in the middle, or Ilsa is somewhere in the middle, and then you've got you know, like it's like, you know, just like a
You've got a variety of characters, and the plot is just intermingling all of these different big personalities and these big decision makers with the people who are just trying to coast on by as neutrally as possible. And
with people who are making decisions, and the people that are making the decisions are really are honestly messed up from past experiences. And when you have history like that, when you have like trauma, when you have things from the past that are like all of a sudden show up in your life, and she didn't expect to see Rick and he didn't expect to see her, and all of a sudden they're back in each other's lives, that messes things up. And characters make choices that maybe are not the right choice morally, or that they wouldn't normally make, because it's like, because they're of the emotional state that they're in. And so that's, I just think that's how humans work. And so I think that's really interesting. So it would be really boring if everyone just made the right choices
right
all the time.
Yeah, and if that was the metric you use to determine if a character was well written or not.
Exactly. What this movie is so well written because these are messed up people.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, some of my favorite films are like about the characters who make nothing but bad decisions. Shout out Uncut Gems. You know, look at like
Inside Llewyn Davis.
Yeah, look at Goodfellas. Like look at like the majority of like Martin Scorsese's films. Like, you know, there's something that's really interesting about like doing these like character studies on people who are messed up, who have trauma, who have baggage, who make bad decisions. Sometimes they make good decisions, sometimes they rise out of that, or sometimes they don't. And like that's what makes it really interesting, is when not every story has to be like having
clean
like
and tidy and
exactly. Like here, I'm actually gonna read one of Mitch's comments real quick, and then I have another thought on that. Mitch was asking if we're gonna do anything Oscars related. I would love to. I don't know if we're gonna be able to like do like a live reactions, but if we could do at the very least like a post Oscars thing, that would be really fun.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be fun to like invite people on for. I was gonna ask if y'all either want to do a pre or a post Oscar thing. If we want to talk about post, would probably make the most sense, but I think that would be.
Yeah, I would love to. I think it'd be fun, and I need to. For that reason alone, I'll catch up on some of these movies.
Yeah, and Mitch, you weren't here in the chat earlier, but we were talking about the Oscars, and like talking about like trying to get caught up with as many as we can. So that like that's something that I'm definitely gonna try and do. But I think if we can't do like both a pre and a post Oscars, we could probably have like a poll or like some sort of like predictions thing going on in the Facebook group.
That's great.
For any of you listening who are still here, or if you're listening on the podcast feed, if you haven't joined the Facebook group yet, go ahead and do that. Banter Fodder, a film and television discussion group, which is also in the description of this stream and will be in the description of the podcast feed. But yeah, and then also I also think if we do like a Oscars episode, we can have guests on, like Mitch. We could have whoever else wants to join us on the episode and get like a
round table
going. Yeah, a round table, exactly. But back to what we were talking about. There, I just had the thought, and then it just escaped me again. As soon as I'm like, oh yeah, back to the combo.
We're
Heck,
talking
dude.
about messiness with
Yes.
Ilsa.
Okay. I feel
Oh.
like no.
Okay.
I was cooking.
Okay,
I
okay.
feel like messiness in like modern romance, like in modern films, like just it doesn't hit the same as a lot of old films. Like there are exceptions to the rule, but like James was mentioning, like doing the love triangle thing almost never works, but it works here. And then like just having these like relationships that are so messy, and it's like part of you's like, dang dude, like Rick, if you're gonna be Mr. Steal Your Girl, like go ahead and do that, because you know you deserve it, you've been through so much. But at the same time you're like, but no, like I don't want that. And it does such a good job of like, I don't know, just making you understand where each character is coming from in those ways, and still finding ways to like be sympathetic or empathetic towards them.
Mhm.
And like, but it never like loses the impact of like whatever outcome, whatever decision that they make, you know.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, like I don't see that often in modern films now. Like there's just something about like golden age Hollywood that just got that down right for some reason.
I think the key to the success of how it's used in Casablanca goes back to that idea of it being real in both relationships, you know? Like I buy her and Rick. And then whenever Laszlo is like leading the song, you're like, who in her right mind would not follow Laszlo into whatever future there is? You know, like there's a reality to the situation with both. And I think this would all come across as really hokey if there wasn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Again,
I
that
agree.
scene is so phenomenal. I was moved very heavily by that scene. It was just like, I don't know, there's something about Nazis singing their thing and then people fighting back and singing theirs louder. It's
yeah,
just very satisfying.
so beautifully done.
It was incredibly well done and like extremely moving. And I seriously, I really, we had the same thought, James. Like, I'm not French, but I feel French right
Yeah,
now.
it's so good. We already kind of mentioned the fact that like this movie really excels with it's just not just our primary characters, but just inhabiting the world with memorable characters. One guy that I wanted to shout out there, he's not a huge presence in it as a character, but I love Sidney Greenstreet as Signor Ferrari. Uh, Rick so rudely just refers to the fat gent like the whole time, the fat gent at the bar. But he's the guy that Rick ends up leaving Rick's cafe to in the end. To me, Greenstreet plays that character as it's like it's on paper, he's just there, he's whatever. But I think he makes him like, I don't know, just kind of he's got a unique face, and he just kind of makes him a unique little presence. And I feel the same way about Peter Lorre, the guy who gets shot, who has the papers initially, where it's like
Yeah.
super unique face, super unique voice. He's who Cad Bane is based off of, by the way. The
Who
voice
is?
actor Cad Bane is doing a Peter Lorre. The voice actor for Cad Bane said his performance is him doing an impression of Peter Lorre.
Really?
Yeah, because that's where the Austrian accent came from. As he just decided, he's like, well, Peter Lorre does an Austrian. I'm just doing Peter Lorre.
By the way, speaking of Peter Lorre, if you've never seen M, it's a great
He's
film.
incredible in it. Also, if you haven't seen the Maltese Falcon is Humphrey Bogart, Peter Lorre, and Sidney Greenstreet, all the three of them back together.
Reunited.
Yeah, and
it feels so good.
It does feel so good. It is such a cool noir movie. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's another big one that I have not seen.
Yeah, it's really good. But I love, like, I guess it's a benefit of the way the old studio system worked, where because of contracts that actors sign, you really do have like the ability to take like these super famous character actors and just make sure that every side role in your movie is filled by not a familiar face in terms of like, oh, that's a star, he has star power, like, but just like a unique face. Like Peter Lorre looks like Peter Lorre, you know.
Yeah.
Also watch Arsenic and Old Lace, because Peter Lorre is hysterical in it. But yeah, I think the movie does a really good job of like making characters like Ferrari or Ugart or Carl or Sam, or just, you know, all of these side characters, just
the pickpocket.
Yeah,
I love whenever he steals the stuff, and the other guy is like checking his pockets. He's like, because he knows, he's like, oh yeah, we've seen it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does such a good job of making the town such a like living and breathing town, like real characters there. The town itself and the bar especially is a character in itself, which is really awesome. Like, speaking of, there's just this random shot that I keep thinking about, but it's whenever it's near the beginning of the film. Oh, what is her name? Why am I blanking on her name now? Yvonne. Whenever they kick her out at the beginning of the film, and it cuts to outside of the bar. I love the shot. It's like this like really cool like low like side angle, like showing the neon sign. Like, it just, man, it goes hard, and I like haven't been able to stop thinking about it.
It's so cool. A lot of like the drama is so great, and the characters are like, the performances are so great, and the dialogue is obviously next level. But you know, we haven't ignored this point. We've acknowledged how well made it is, but this is really like, it really is a good looking movie. One of our friends shared in the chat just one of the best images ever, where Claude Rains, Captain Renault, is talking to Rick in Rick's like his own private room, and Rick walks out of frame, but a light casts his perfect shadow on the wall, and so it's just framed like Renault talking to the shadow. It's just so cool. I love it.
Yeah, like that. It's something that I've like thought about a lot. There's that video that just came out recently about like why like movies don't look the way that they used to, and like this film and like a lot of other classic films from like the 40s and 50s, they don't always go for like realism in their visuals. I mean, like Michael shouted out like the one shot when we first are introduced to Ilsa, and like just the way that like the lighting like is hitting her face and everything, and like you get like just all of these like really interesting creative choices. Like it's making it look visually interesting. It's not making it like look super realistic. And it's such like a lost art, like that you don't see movies shot like these classics. And like even when modern films try to go for like the black and white look, they very rarely like have those like super intentional decisions with like the lighting. Like I miss it so much because there's so many shots throughout this film where I'm like, that looks incredible, and unfortunately we just like don't get that anymore.
Yeah.
I love it when it's used intentionally, but it feels like a lot of movies just shoot like with naturalism, not even in mind, but just as like a back of their mind, not even really conscious decision default way, where it's like, dude, you got an environment where you could do a lot of cool stuff with shadows. But you don't. Like, you could really light this really cool, but you don't. It's just, it feels like it looks the way it looks, I guess. And it's like, no, man, dude, you're a movie, man. Movies are a visual medium.
Exactly.
Go for an epic close-up. Screw, like, I don't care if there's no contextual lighting for this shot. Like, put a spotlight on that character. It'll look awesome. You know, like, it's
and I was listening to, or I was watching the bonus features, and I think it was Spielberg talking about it. It might have been someone else, but someone was talking about how the set of the bar was built in such a way with keeping in mind, like, what can we do with this set to make the lighting as interesting as possible? You know what I mean? And that's just, I love that thought process.
Yeah.
And
it feels like that's what, like, that's, if you're a production and you're hiring like a gaffer and a cinematographer and stuff, that's what they should always be asking, you know, and working with their director with, is like, the job shouldn't be to show up and put a camera in a corner and technically everything is in frame, so it's good. Like, you should always be asking, like, how can I make this as interesting as it is? It's two characters in a room by themselves at night. Can I make it look as cool as I can?
Yeah. Like, I feel like modern filmmakers, honestly, like, I don't like being the guy who's like, oh, film school sucks, because like film school is great. And there's a lot of people who like are like, oh, you know, I just watch old movies and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, there's a reason why you watch those old movies. It's because they do interesting things, because they're influential. And like, I feel like a lot of these modern, newer, like more recent filmmakers in like the last 10 years, they're too like tied down to the rules. Like they're too tied down to like, oh, well, you know, the way lighting works is it has to, like, you know, keep the sun in mind, or it has to keep like the natural lighting in mind. And like, obviously, like, you want to like do that as often as you can. Like, you don't want to like fully break continuity, but like there are times where you can, and there are like you can still bend the rules and like make interesting creative decisions. Like, I've said it on the pod before, but like, dude, I freaking miss when movies have blue lit night skies. It looks so freaking cool. And then when you do that, you can contrast it with some really interesting like warm lights. Like, it goes hard. Like, those are creative decisions that like you should be making. You shouldn't just be like,
but night doesn't look like that.
Yeah, it's like, who cares?
Night doesn't look like anything. It's dark.
Yeah.
We just covered Vertigo, and so it feels relevant, but Hitchcock was like the master of, I couldn't care even a tiny bit less about realism. Like, if anybody's showing up and is like, but how about, it's like, get out. No, my production is not where you ask those questions. I want the light coming straight out of the window, highlighting her when she comes out of the closet. I don't care if the room wasn't lit like that before she came out of that closet. When she's walking towards us now, this is how this scene is lit, because it looks amazing. And like, I love that. Make your movies cool looking. Make them bold.
Yeah. No, like, I even shout out to my own short film that I did for my thesis film. There's a shot that we have where the main character is unwrapping a bandage, and I literally was just like to my friend who worked on the film with me, I was like, dude, I know it doesn't make any sense, but can we change the light to like a violet color? I was just like, I think it's gonna look really cool, and we ended up like doing that. There's no reason why we did it other than like I was just like, dude, it's gonna look cool, and it worked. Like I didn't get any like complaints about it. I actually got compliments about it in my class. Like sometimes like there doesn't need to be a reason why other than
Looking cool is its reason.
Looks cool, exactly. It's a movie. Let it look cool.
Speaking of looking cool, Brian Valco in the comments said, "Great achievement in hats. I kid, but this is a movie I noticed hats in a way I don't for other movies. Hats help a close up." And Humphrey Bogart pulls off a fedora like nobody else. Like if there weren't like the modern jokes about fedoras right now.
Whoa, princess.
Exactly. If it weren't for man, we need a revival of fedoras, dude, though.
Yeah.
Like out of that
bring
context.
back the like noir aesthetic, dude.
Exactly. Like
honestly, let's make real life black and white.
Let's do it.
Yeah, no, he pulls them off so good. Like that's another thing, dude. The outfits go so freaking hard in this film. Like even Ronell's like uniform and everything. Like I'm just, it's such a vibe.
Well, I just like the background for me right now. Like if that isn't just like, if you're listening to this podcast, you're not seeing it, but it's Rick looking dapper as all get out with his fedora and his suit and his I think that's his pipe he's holding. That is gosh, that's
just look at the like shadows like covering like only half of his face, and like even the hat, like you see the shadow of the hat on his shoulder. Like dude, they don't light films like they used to.
And them shadows ain't on accident either.
Exactly, dude. That is creating an image.
Yeah, man. Oh, so good. I don't know if I have any other thoughts. I think I spewed them all.
You spewed all your thoughts?
I think I spewed all my thoughts.
Brian Valco said, "Can you imagine Rick and Ilsa's final goodbye without those brims?" It would be different.
The thing is, like that composite, like it's kind of jokey, but he's not really even joking, because that final composition of their two faces in frame and that close up, like the fedora pulls that whole shot together. It really does.
It really does.
As does the music.
Oh yeah,
man, so good. I went and listened to the score. The score is really interesting on like Spotify because it actually it's just the audio from the film.
It's that way for a lot of older films.
Yeah.
I don't love it.
Yeah.
But I wish I wish older movies had more studio recordings to listen to.
Yeah. Me too. As time goes by, is like it works in that context, but like it's a shame because like there's some seriously great music in this score. Well,
apparently he also scored Gone with the Wind, and
what a main theme.
Suddenly I feel like my mom made me watch Gone with the Wind when I was literally like 9 years old, but I don't remember a single thing about it. And I do own it, so I kind of started to get the itch to finally watch that one.
Oh my gosh,
the Max Steiner thing kind of got me like, okay, now I got to do it.
And he scored The Searchers, the OG King Kong, and the Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Holy cow,
dude!
I knew he did King Kong.
Another Bogart film that's awesome.
Yeah, and the biggest inspiration for There Will Be Blood.
Yeah. And
a very different Bogart performance.
Very
nice.
It's fantastic. You love it, Michael. But yeah, no, I'm with you on like wanting to like watch Gone with the Wind. Like honestly, there's just a lot of like classic epics that I have not seen yet. I haven't
Frankly,
seen
Drew,
Ben-Hur.
I don't give a damn.
Nice.
I haven't seen Ben-Hur. There's so many that I could list off that I
Yep.
haven't seen yet. I
Haven't
want
seen that. Lawrence of
Ben-Hur.
Arabia.
Ben-Hur is awesome.
we are no matter what, this summer we got to do Lawrence of Arabia.
Dude, we've been talking about doing that one since the
Yeah.
beginning of this podcast. We have got to actually do it.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
still pissed that I missed the theater.
Same. Oh my god.
I'm so pissed.
I didn't even get the chance because they didn't play it near me, so I was just like, all right, cool.
Ugh. Man. But yeah. Well, I had a thought. I thought of something we can do to sign out with at the end of the podcast. We can say, "Here's looking at you, kids."
Say
Classic.
Drake. I hear you.
think we
Like,
Oh no.
oh,
But
man.
actually, that was one of the greatest moments ever.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, I don't know. James, do you have any final thoughts?
I think this is one of those magical moments where you watch a decades and decades old movie that has such a legendary amount of hype around it, and you're like, okay, yep, makes sense. It's awesome. Like I said, I think any sort of like definitive like ranked list of films, you should only have to scroll too far before you find this. It is incredible drama, incredible performances, an incredible script, beautifully shot. It's like, it is a real true through and through like film. You know, it does everything right, and it's incredible, and it makes me feel all the emotions watching it, and it has the added benefit of ending on such an incredibly high note with its third act, right down to its final like 5 minutes and even final 10 seconds. It's just
Making you want more films with
the
Rick
two of
and
them.
all.
Yeah. Which apparently there was like a canceled sequel, but there were plans to do a sequel.
Interesting.
But I would have watched it, but you do have a sense of like, it's Casablanca, you know, this is what this was only ever supposed to be. But yeah, I think this movie's perfect. It's one of the all-time greats ever.
It's one of those movies. I say it every now and then when we cover the right kind of movie, but it's like, this movie's got it all. this movie has everything. It really is that kind of movie, and in the best possible way. It's not. It's the perfect cocktail of a movie, right? It's got incredible dialogue. It's got characters that you care about instantly. It's got intrigue. It's hilarious. It's dramatic. It's deep. The pacing is so like, it's whip fast, but it's also like, it's not too fast, and it's also a very like, for as everyone talks about as one of the greatest films of all time, it's a very accessible movie. Like, it's not pretentious or anything like that at all. It's just, it is what it is, and it's very accessible, and it's one of those movies that I feel like, you know, your grandma might say it's the best movie ever, and a film student would say it's the best movie ever, and you don't get that very often. That's really cool, and I love that. So, and I think for, you know, this was one of those times I got done watching it and I was like, yeah, I get the hype. That was real. Like, that's unquestioned. Do I have a problem with this movie? No, I don't think there's a single one. I love it.
Can you bring anything new to the table in a review? No,
no. Everything we're saying tonight has been said 1 billion times, but I don't care.
Who cares?
It's kind of freeing, where you're like, I love that we've all agreed that this is just unbelievably awesome, and I don't have to pretend to like bring any insight into it, you know, where I'm like,
the only insight that I can bring is that anyone who has it less than 5 stars, you need to rethink your life decision.
So go home and rethink your life.
Exactly.
Oh,
Oh man.
Curry catching strays even when he's not here.
I know.
Ah.
What do you have it at 3 stars? Come on, guy.
Yeah. He said he watched it in film school though, so it's been a long time. But then I was like, dude, you should rewatch it. And he's like, eh. And then he goes and watches like those bargain bin movies that he's been watching.
But I get why he's watching the dude. I do what he does too, where I think he
I love
picked
it.
Canon films, and he's like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
going
no,
through Canon films.
Yeah, no, I'm not dissing what he's been watching. Like
You were totally dissing what he's been watching.
Well, I mean, compared to Casablanca, yeah, it's. I think we got a frozen Drooby.
Uh-oh.
no,
Oh.
I was only did. Yep, we had a frozen Drooby.
There we go.
That winter storm is starting to kick in,
Uh-oh.
so I think
We
it's
might land the plane.
messing with
Let's land the plane.
Yeah. Mitch said, I'm not ready to say goodbye. Dude, we're not ready to say goodbye either. So that's why
so hard.
That's why we're gonna hit you with
goodbye.
Every time.
Beautiful.
very. If y'all are listening on the podcast feed, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel because we're doing these live streams once a week, and they've been great success. Very
Great.
nice. No, they really have been. We've had like over 120 views. Like, I mean, it's still counting, but tonight. So thanks for everyone who joined in. Mitch especially, thank you for sticking around and dropping some absolutely banger comments.
We'll always have North Carolina.
Yeah. And then also MCU ruined lighting. Am I right? You are right, my dude. All right. Anyways, though, go support your local theater. Go watch some freaking movies. Go check out the Oscar noms because they're going to be back in AMC and Regal theaters this weekend, right? Or is that next weekend? I can't remember, but that's real soon. So go freaking do that. And also go watch Companion while it's still in theaters because it's heat. Mitch said next. Is that a question or is that a statement?
No, next weekend.
Oh, okay.
He's like, next, wrap it up.
Oh man. Yeah. Speaking of next week is either going to be When Harry Met Sally or La La Land.
I'm just going to say, even though I love La La Land, I feel like because of the references to Casablanca all the way through, I feel like we have to do When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
Week.
I also like the idea of it being like, week by week, we're going through each decade until we get to like
I like that
times.
too.
So,
I like that too.
Yeah. I'd be down to do When Harry Met Sally next week. So
that's the one I'm like. I love La La Land. 5 stars, one of my favorites ever. But I'm maybe more excited for When Harry Met Sally just because of it's such a big blind spot for me.
For sure.
Let's freaking do it.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all later. Bye.
Here's looking at you, kids.
He said the thing.
He did it.